Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I'll be showing us how to recreate this shift dress here with gathers and a pocket. So I'll be using 2 yards of this fabric and 1 yard of the orange fabric here. So I'm going to fold this fabric now into 2, and this fabric is 2 yards. I'll be folding it into 2, after which I'm going to fold it like so, like an A shape. So the upper part is smaller than the lower part. So I'm going to be folding like a bias. So now I'm going to be imputing my body measurement, and I'm going to be going with a gown length of 28.5 inches. Now my full gown length here is 38 inches. So the lower part, the gathers part of my dress is going to be 10 inches long, while this upper part is going to be 28 inches. So I marked 28.5 for sewing allowance also. So now I've marked my shoulder measurements, which is 8 inches plus half inch sewing allowance. After which I'll be marking my chest line measurement, which is 8.5 inches. Then I'm going to mark my apex, which is 11 inches. Then my length to under bust of 14 inches. And my half length of 17 inches. Then I'll be using 8 inches for my hip line, and I'm going to just draw out straight lines. Now I'm going to be marking my shoulder measurement also on my chest line, so I can get a straight line. Then I'm going to add 3 inches to my bust measurement, that is 38 plus 3 inches, that's 41. So 41 divided by 4, I'll mark what I have plus 1 inch for sewing allowance. So I'm also going to mark the same thing on my chest line. Now for my hip, I'll divide my hip by 4. I'll mark what I have, then add 6 inches for the allowance there, then 1 inch for the allowance, 6 inches for the ease to make it big at that part, then 1 inch for seam allowance. Then I connected all the points together. So we can make it curvy like so, or we can make it straight. So I'll be going with this straight line. So next I will be marking out my armhole curve. As you can see, I went in from my armhole line with half inch. So I'm going to be coming down by 1 inch to get my shoulder slope. Then I'm going with a neck width of 3 inches and a neck depth of 3 inches also. And this is for the front. Now for the back, I'm going with a neck depth of 1 inch. And I'm going to mark out the front neckline and back neckline on the same block. But when I'm cutting, I'm only going to be cutting the back neckline first. So you can see I did not cut my front neckline, just the back. So after cutting, I'm going to notch the center. Then I'm going to open up my fabric like so. I know our fabric was on fold, so I'm having both the front and the back. So this is the back. I'm going to take out my back piece now and keep it aside. Then fold my front again before I can go ahead and cut off the front neckline. So we need to cut the back first, take out the back before we cut the front neckline. So this is what we have. Next I want to mark out my slits. The slits are the center front of my dress, and I'm coming down by 4.5 inches. I'm going to divide the center front to that 4.5 inches I marked. So this is what we're going to be having. I'm going to keep this aside now. Now for this fabric here, I have just 1 yard. So I'm going to be dividing this into 4 equal parts. So I have a total length of 44. So dividing it into 4 means I'm going to be having 11 inches for each of the parts. So I have a length of 44. Then I'm marking out 11 inches. So I'm going to be having four pieces of this orange fabric. I'm going to cut it out. So I'll be using 2 for the front gathers, and 2 for the back gathers. Now from the front gathers, I'm going to be marking out 12 inches. So I'm going to be using this for my front neckline because I don't have any other fabric. I'm just working with 1 yard here. So I'm going to be keeping this aside. So I removed the front neck facing from the front gathers fabric. Then for the back, I'll be taking out my back facing, and I'll be going in cutting out 6 inches width. I marked 6 inches. I'll cut it out. So these pieces I cut out now is for the back. So this is our back gathers. Now I'm going to be putting air stay on these 2 pieces of fabric here. So this is what we have. Then for the front, I'm going to be folding this fabric now into 2. So I'm going to fold the 12 inches into 2 to give 6 inches. So I'm working with 6 inches on fold and 11 inches for the length. So I'm going to fold it, making sure these 2 center fronts align. Then I'm going to cut out the neckline and the shoulder to be the same with the blouse. Then I'm also going to cut out the slit we have at the front, center front. So now I'm going to be, this is how we're going to place our facing. This is how our facing is going to look. But this is not how we are going to place it. So now I just want to like shapen out this facing. So I'll just be cutting a little bit out to give it the shape I want it to have. So I'm marking 4 inches from the center front, and I came down from the top with about 3 inches, and I'm just going to blend it out like so. So I came down with about 3 inches from the top, so I'll blend it out like so, then cut out. I don't want to have like a square shape on my facing. So this is how it's going to be. So now to sew this, I am going to move the facing to the wrong side of the fabric. So the right side of my facing is facing the wrong side of my blouse or my dress. So now the right side of my facing is facing the wrong side of my dress. I'm going to pin it down. So let's make sure we pin at this point so that the fabric doesn't move when sewing. So just to reiterate, the front side of my facing is facing or is touching the wrong side of my dress. So I'm going to pin it. Then I'll take it to my machine and sew 1/2 inch all round. And I'm also going to be adding my hemming gum so that I'm going to, when I iron, it's going to stay in place. Then I'm going to be notching carefully and make sure I don't cut through the thread, but I get very close to it. I will notch, so when we turn this, it's going to turn very well. Okay, I'm going to notch and cut off any excess I have there. Now I'm going to turn it out. So when I turn it out now, you can see that the right side of my facing is now on top of the right side of my facing is now on top of the right side of my dress. Then I'll be folding the sides in like so. I'll fold in 0.25, then sew on the tip of that 0.25 there. I'll fold it down also and sew on the tip. Then I'll do that for the other side. Now for my back facing, I'm going with a length of 5 inches. So I'm going with a length of 5 inches and a width of 12 inches. So when I fold it, I'm having 6 inches with a length of 5 inches. So I'm making sure that the 2 center fronts align. Then I'm going to cut out the neckline and also the shoulder. Then I'm going to notch the center side. Then I'm going to place it the same way I placed my front, making sure the front of my facing faces or touches the back of my dress. And I'm going to pin and sew using 1/2 inch and also add my hemming gum to it. So this is what we have. I'm going to notch because it's a curve. I'm going to notch so it can relax well when we turn it over. So turn it over now and you can see what we have. And the same way I did for the front, I'll be doing that also. I'll be folding in 0.25. I'll fold it in. When folding it in, we can also pin before we take it to our machine to sew, or if you can sew it as we fold, that's fine also. So I'm going to be sewing the tip. Now for the gathers pieces that we've cut out, I'm going to be joining the two front pieces together and the two back pieces together. So I've joined in now. I'm going to be running a gather stitch, a loose stitch from the beginning to the end so we can draw out our gathers. But before I do that, I'm going to get the middle point of this fabric and notch. I'll make a notch. I'll also use my chalk to highlight that point so I can easily locate it. I'll run a loose stitch there. Then I'll get the front piece of my fabric, of my dress, and the back also. I've done my facing now and it came out well. Now from the middle point of my dress, I'm going to measure what I have from that middle point to the end, and I have 19 inches. So it means from the middle point of this gathers fabric here to one end will also be 19 inches. So when after drawing out my gathers now, by the time I place it like so, I'm having 19 inches on one side of my gathers from the midpoint and 19 inches on the other side. So when I place the midpoints together, you can see it is equal. You can see that they are adding up and there's no excess on any side. So the midpoint of our fabric, of our orange fabric here, we're going to run a gathers from one side to the midpoint of 19 inches and from the other side to the midpoint of 19 inches. Then I'll turn my fabric over like so and sew using 1/2 inch. I'll pin it down first, then sew using 1/2 inch. I'll do that for the back also. So this is it for the front, for the back, and this is it also for the front. So the next thing to do now is to close up our shoulder and the side. So I'll be pinning down the two shoulders together and sew it using 1/2 inch. I'll sew it with 1/2 inch. Then I will also pin the sides together using. After pinning, I'm going to be marking out my seam allowance of 1 inch. So I'm going to be attaching a pocket to this dress. So from my shoulder now, I'm going to be marking 1 inch below my half length, which is 17 inches. I'll come down 1 inch, that's 18 inches. That is where my pocket is going to start from. My pocket is going to start from 18 inches from the shoulder. Then I'm marking out my seam allowance now of 1 inch, and I'll mark that all the way to the down. So I'll take it to my machine after this and sew on the 1 inch. So I'll sew to this top of my half length. I'll sew using normal stitches here. Then I'll come down from that point and mark 7 inches, and I'll sew from that point with loose stitches to the end of that 7 inches before I continue with normal stitches. So I'll be using loose stitches on that 7 inches point because I'll be attaching the pocket there. So this is what I have. This is how our dress came out. Now I'll be cutting out my pocket, and I'll be going in with a pocket length of 10 inches and a width of 7 inches. So I'll just be marking 7.5 inches. I'll measure what I have here after drawing my mark, and I'll mark at 7 inches plus 1/2 inch sewing allowance. I'll connect it to the hem. So the length of my pocket is 10 inches and the width is 7 inches. So I have 7.5 here. After sewing, it goes back to 7 inches. I'm going to cut 2 of these for the left and right pocket, after which I'm going to be sewing my pocket to my dress. So after cutting two of this, I'm going to be sewing the ½ inch allowance I added. Then I will attach this to my dress. So I've done that now, and this is what we have. So lastly, I'm going to be fixing my sleeve, and I'm going to measure what I have at that point. So I have an armhole width of 10 inches. So I'm going to fold my fabric into two, then measure my sleeve length of 10 inches plus 2 inches for folding allowance. That's 12 inches. Then I'm going to draw out my armhole curve and measure what I have. So after measuring, I must have up to 10 inches plus sewing allowance of 1 inch. So I must have 11 inches. So I'll mark out my 10 inches plus 1 inch. So that's what I have. Then for my round sleeve, I'll come down by 8.5 inches. That's where I'll be imputing my round sleeve measurement of 13 inches plus 1 inch for ease, then 1 inch for sewing allowance. Then I'll measure all I have on my round sleeve and put the same measurement on the hem of my sleeve. Then I'm going to cut out. So I'll also be cutting out two of this sleeve, after which I will roll up the down, I'll hem the down and close the side with 1 inch, which is the allowance I added. Then attach this to my dress also. And this is how our dress came out. Very beautiful. We're going to also be hemming the down of my dress. And this is the final result of our dress, guys. It's giving all it's meant to give. Thank you for watching, and bye for now.